Namaste, Vanakkam, Swagatam, Namaskaram. Welcome back to another session and so looking forward to being with you. Of course, we are always together and that is the beauty of this experience of the Zoom womb. And as we saw in the last session, we straddle the past and the future in our last session because some of us were in the 2020s, some were in 2021. And it reminds us that time is such a relative aspect of human existence, and yet it dictates so much in our life. So let's invoke the parampara before we begin today. Om Tad Paramparaya Vidmahe Jnanalingeshwaraya Dhimahi Tanno Guruh Prachodayate Om Yoga Maharshi Dr. Swami Gitananda Giri Guru Maharaj Ki Jai. So today you are all having a good appetite because we are going to talk about yogic diet. And often people think that yogis have to starve all the time. But Swamiji proved that yogis can have all the fun. So this whole idea that yoga is sensory deprivation and food deprivation was thrown to the wind by Swamiji. And I think one of the highlights of the students' stay in the ashram is always the food. And whether they like the teachings or not, whether they like Swamiji, Ammaji and me and the other teachers or not, we never know. But one thing is sure, they love the food. And I think this is a good sign that, as they say, armies cannot march on an empty stomach. And yoga sadhakas also need an adequate satiety of the bodily sensations before higher spiritual growth can occur. The reason I'm bringing this point up is that there is a tendency to look at yoga as one of those extreme activities where you punish the body. I think this is where we make a lot of mistakes because yoga is not any form of punishment at all. Okay? This whole word punishment doesn't exist in the yoga dictionary. Yet in modern times, everybody is busy punishing themselves, pushing their limits and killing themselves to get into asanas. And, you know, you always have this image of a yogi in the high Himalayas who's thin and you can just see his rib cage and all the bones because he hasn't eaten in 3 months. And, you know, you have this mental image of someone who has been punishing himself, and that is not yoga at all. That is punishment, self-punishment. And some people like that. In modern mental health, we call it sadomasochism. And sadomasochistic tendencies are there in a lot of people who like to punish themselves, and then they use the term yoga, spirituality, religion to do it. No religion wants you to punish yourself, I'll tell you that much. Because no God wants you to punish yourself. Because if you are a manifestation of the divine is not interested in self-punishment. So never take that. That is all people who want power over others, and they bring in these type of rules to keep people under their thumb. You know that thumb? It's something we have to be very careful with yoga diet. Because people get very fanatical about it. And whenever you hear about yoga diet, you hear of all these weird rules you have to follow. And I want to talk about that a bit today, because the key of yoga, every aspect of yoga, is moderation. And if you have to remember one word from today's Satsangha, take home word is moderation. Lord Krishna in the Bhagavat Gita, he makes it very clear. Yukta hara, he uses the term yukta, Y-U-K-T-A, and the verse is 17th verse of 6th chapter. I am going to give you some numbers today to embellish your understanding. Usually I don't do it, but I put a few things down today. I thought I'll give you for your further understanding. Yukta is a word being used here in chapter 6, verse 17. Yukta hara viharasya, yukta cheshtasya karmasu, yukta swapna vabodasya, yogo bhavati dukkha ha. Now that is the full shloka. Dukkha is suffering, painful suffering. Ha means to destroy. The word ha means to destroy. That is why Shiva is hara. He destroys all that needs to be cleared. All the debris is cleared by Shiva so that new growth can occur. Because as long as your plastic junk is clogging the planet, nothing can grow. So Shiva is destroying all of that. He is the exterminator of all of that nonsense, and he burns it. That's why he has a third eye. He has that big fire to burn away all that you need to burn so that the new crop can come. Okay? He's a very good farmer. He knows how to farm properly. Clear the crop and clear all the stuff so that the new growth can come. Very typical of farming in North India. Dukkha ha. Your suffering, painful suffering is destroyed through yoga. Yogo bhavati dukkha. Chapter 6, verse 17. Michael keeps on saying I should do a series on the meta physiology of the Bhagavad Gita, and I think he will get me into that with his constant motivation. But motivation is not enough. If you learn from Sangeeta, you will know that you have to sometimes take that a bit more, and it has to become a bit nagging before you get Ananda to do things. And Sangeeta was good at that. She'll come upstairs, catch me my collar and say, when are you going to complete that chapter? That's how she got me to do the Yoga Sutras book and our Saraswati Pearls. So, you know, Yogo bhavati dukkha. This is the final statement. Yoga destroys painful suffering. Yogo bhavati dukkha. But how is that yoga defined? By the word yukta, Y-U-K-T-A. And yukta means yoked together. When something is in a state of balanced, harmonious integration, that is what yukta means. Yoked together. There is no dichotomy. Why do you use a yoke? So that your horses or your buffaloes or your donkeys or you don't run off into different directions all the time, and you are focused on where you need to go. The role of the yoke is to keep all the tools moving in the same direction at the same time for the same purpose. Sounds a bit like dharma. Same direction, same time for the same purpose. To keep your whole apparatus in a state of dharmic oneness, you have the yoke, and that yoked state is called yukta. It's a state of yoking where there is no dichotomy, there is no wastage of your resources. And what does Krishna say here? He says, Yukta hara viharasya. Yukta ahara. When your food, ahara, is in a state of yukta, which means that the food you are taking is food that is nourishing those aspects of you that need nourishment and not nourishing those parts of you that are deviant. I'm giving you a new twist on this word here. Nourishing those aspects that take you on the path of dharma and starving those aspects that pull you away from dharma. Yukta ahara. So your food should be such that it nourishes you on the path of dharma, which is the path of yoga. Yoga and dharma are synonymous. Yukta hara vihara, your relaxation and recreation. The way you let go should also be a way that is conducive for dharmic living and growth. Not that you do your yoga session and then go out and have a drink and a smoke and you know what, make a mess of yourself. See, your food was integrated, yoked towards your goal. Is your relaxation, recreation also geared towards your goal? You ask me, Dr. Ananda, how do you relax? By teaching. That's how I relax. Because when I teach, I don't have to do anything. It just happens and I'm just there having a nice time. I'm just enjoying myself. That is my yukta vihara. Yukta hara viharasya yukta cheshtasya karmasu. You know what happens is your activity. Your activity should be balanced. Yukta hara viharasya yukta cheshtasya karmasu. Your activity should be balanced. What does it mean balanced here? Geared towards the goal. So everything, be it your food, ahara, be it your relaxation, recreation, be it your thought patterns, be it your life activities, yukta swapna, your sleep, and vabodha, your wakefulness. In all these aspects, 24 hours a day, that's what Krishna is saying. 24 hours by 7, 24/7 by 365 in years of your life. He says your whole life should be one of balanced, harmonious integrity onto the path of your goal, taking you there, because then you are not bothered by the suffering. Because where does the suffering come? By you deviating from your path. When you move out of dharma, you have become adharmic. When you move off the path of yoga, you become ayogic. And at that point, suffering is going to be there. Suffering is the benefit of being off dharma and off yoga. In the state of dharma, in the state of yoga, suffering doesn't exist. Now you say, well, I know a lot of people who are very good people, but they suffer a lot. Well, it may look like suffering to you, but maybe they are not suffering. Because suffering is an individual's experience, not an external attribute. When Ramana Maharishi had cancer, they said, oh, you must be in pain and suffering. He said, Ramana is not having pain and suffering. The body may have it, but Ramana doesn't have it. See, I have seen this with Ammaji, okay? I have seen it so strongly with Ammaji and Swamiji. Because what happens, you are so focused on the goal, you are one with the goal, all of the paraphernalia doesn't matter. Whereas for everybody else, it's all about paraphernalia and packaging and not the content. The content is yukta. As long as you are yoked to the goal, suffering disappears. The intensity of your sadhana onto the path burns away the source of suffering. Now, let's go to Maharishi Patanjali, the other perspective. He says, why do you suffer? is because you identify with whatever you are experiencing. Drashta drishyayo samyogo. In my last Saturday morning, I have talked about this in the Yoga Drishti. The union between the perceiver and the perceived leads to the suffering. Heya hetuhu. Patanjali is very clear. He says, as long as you don't identify with what you are perceiving, where is the suffering? As long as you don't put your finger in the electrical socket, you are not going to get an electrical shock. You have your finger in the electrical socket and you're like, I'm getting a shock, I'm getting a shock, I'm getting a shock, I'm getting a shock. For God's sake, take your finger out of it. Disassociate from your union with pain and suffering. Dukkha samyoga viyoga, as Krishna says in another place in the Bhagavad Gita. We are identifying with the pain, with the suffering. It's like someone who's going and banging their head on the wall and saying, oh, my head is paining, my head is paining. For God's sake, stop banging your head on the wall. Oh, you mean I can stop it? Oh, you mean I don't need to do it? Huh? They used to talk about the guy who used to bang his head on the wall because when he stopped, it felt good. That is the state most people are in. Don't bang your head on the wall if you don't want a headache. Don't put your finger in the socket if you don't want an electrical shock. Don't jump into a bottomless well if you don't know swimming. Very simple. As I said today, don't try to explain yourself to people who are not capable of understanding you. That is the worst suffering. Someone said, oh, it's being judgmental. I didn't even bother to respond to them because they are incapable of understanding what I was saying. This is not judgmentalism by a mile. It is practical living where you don't want to suffer anymore. The worst suffering is trying to explain yourself to someone incapable of understanding you. You are going to suffer forever. Infinite dukkha ananta pala, as Patanjali says. It will be infinite suffering. That is why he has suggested Pratipaksha Bhavanam. That's a different part. Coming back to diet. Yukta. Now, this is something that is found again and again and again and again in multiple dimensions of yoga in a term called mitahara. Mita ahara. And you will find this term used a lot. This yuktahara and mitahara are often used synonymously. And that yogic diet, especially when you go into the Hatha texts like Hatha Pradipika and the Garanda Samhita, Shiva Samhita and others, you will find the term mitahara being used more. The mitahara is understanding that there is an apt diet, the appropriate diet for the individual. Again, yoga understands the individual needs may be different. And what are these individual needs when it comes to diet? This could be based on the guna or it could be based on the dosha especially. These are the two. And let me also add karma. Now karma here is being used as activity, not as karma in, I think mitahara, as Michael, as you put it, is how I usually have it. So that's how I normally put it. Mitahara, mit ahara. Now this mit here could be understood as moderate. Now, normally it is translated as moderate. I am replacing moderate by appropriate. So I'm just trying to give you another perspective here because moderation basically means balance. Balance means appropriate. So when your diet is appropriate to your guna, your dosha, and your karmic activity, that is your day-to-day activity. These three are vital when we understand yogic diet. Again, one has to understand that when we talk of yogic diet, you find some interesting statements. I'm going to read out a few of them because recently Divya was doing a course, and so she had to read some of these scriptures, and while I was helping her, or rather she was helping me study them. I was helping her, she was helping me, I don't know. We were helping each other, let's put it that way. We were helping us study, okay? We were helping us study together. It's very interesting when you look at this. For example, in the Garanda Samhita and in the Hatha Pradipika, these are the two classic Hatha Yoga texts that are referenced. You'll find a similar type of statement. Swatma Rama, who is the author of the Hatha Pradipika, he says that the food should be sweet, it should be unctuous, offered to the Almighty, leaving 1/4 of the stomach empty, and he calls this as mitahara. So here you'll find that concept of a few things. One is the quality, sweet. It's very interesting that the sweet has been coming back again and again in most of these Hatha Yoga scriptures. And I think one of the reasons why was that these guys were living in the forests, and mainly they were talking about fruits. That is what I take it to be, fruits and honey, and the flowers having honey. I think it was meant like that, not these heavily sugar-laden Indian sweets that you get these days. I don't think they meant you should take that. Okay, so we have to understand a context there. And again, most of the time they talk about ghee as an important component. Ghee, as you know, is the Indianized butter that you get from milk, and something that is highly recommended in Ayurveda. The Indian system, traditional system of medicine recommends ghee tremendously, and there's a whole lobby against ghee, saying, oh, it will lead to high cholesterol, high cholesterol, high cholesterol. And then nowadays you are starting to get other studies coming in that ghee is not causing high cholesterol. So, you start to have both sides of the coin. It's like with coconut oil. There was a time where people are like, oh, coconut oil, oh my God, high cholesterol. And now they say, no, it lowers your cholesterol. It's very interesting, actually. I'll tell you, these dietary fads and the research, it depends a lot on the researcher. So someone who likes ghee is going to have a positive result. The bias of researchers is amazing in this. But the reason ghee was brought in is the products from the cow. Yeah, as Don says, who's paying for the research? Absolutely. Absolutely. Paid research, you have to think about what happens. In India, the cow is respected as a mother. Go Mata. This is not like the modern, mechanized milking dairy industry, which is criminally violent towards cows. Okay, they are criminally violent towards cows, inhuman conditions, subhuman conditions. You come to India, cows are taken care as if they are part of your family. I know people in India who the cow basically does everything except sleep in the bed. Okay, it stays in the house. That is the type of respect given to the cow. The cow is part of your family. Go Mata. And the cow will go by. We have cows in our village, and I remember even in town, till about a decade ago, and now we have so much of traffic. There, I remember a cow used to go down my Mridangam Master's street from house to house. It would go and sort of poke its head through the door. They would give it some food, then it will go to the next house, poke its head in. It was amazing. It has its round, like the local goon who goes and gets all his cut money. The cow had its round about that area. It was amazing. And the respect given, Go Mata, we consider the cow the mother. And that is why 5 aspects of the cow, the milk of the cow, the ghee, including the urine and the cow dung. 5 aspects are there. These are brought together in minute quantities and used as a medicinal tool in India. Now, the moment you say cow dung, people get all scared about it. It is the best antiseptic ever created, natural antiseptic. And Indian houses had no problem as long as the floors were cleaned with cow dung. And then people say, oh, that's unclean. You have to use our modern pesticides and sanitizers. And suddenly antibiotic resistance came in. Till then, there was no antibiotic resistance in India. And it's amazing, I tell you, the effect of cow dung used in the proper way. And this is why in India, the respect given, the Panchagavya, as Sandhya has reminded, and this is brought in as part of a healthy practice. So why I'm putting this is here, when we talk about milk, when we talk about curd, when we talk about ghee in the Indian yogic context, it is with reverence to the cow from whom we are sourcing it, who is treated as a family member, who is given a share of your food. My own adopted elder sister, Renukaka, she used to talk about how in her family, when they made a chapati at home, the wheat chapati was made. If there were 5 members in the family, 2 extra chapatis were made. 1 chapati was for the cow and one was for the crow. The crow signifies your ancestors and all the ancestral lineage. So if there were 5 members in your family, there were 7 chapatis made. 1 was for the cow, 1 was for the crow, and 5 for the human beings. So the context has been so totally lost in modern times, and it is a very big issue. Now, Jane has asked a question. Again, in the Indian system, our whole system is the calf gets its full and then the milk is taken from the cow. Not the cow, the calf is not kept separate. Now modern industry is different. I'm giving you a context of the Indian way of thinking about a cow. I have, even now in Kambli Swami Madam, we have 24 cows from the neighboring area that come and sit in the madam. And on Sunday, when we go around with the puja, we are always having to dodge them and all the cow dung that is all over the madam in the back. And all of them, the milkman who has these cows, you should look at the calves. They are all well fed and they are all healthy. And this is actually the way that it is taken forward. An understanding of sharing and not deprivation. And this is where I think what has happened is many of these concepts, as we have mechanized the whole process, as we have mechanized it, we have moved away from respecting other life forms and acknowledging the role they play. Now, Swamiji in the yoga step by step has gone to the extent of even suggesting what would be a vegan lifestyle. And the reason is he's understood what is happening in modern times and suggested that one needs to go beyond the milk. And he has suggested many milk substitutes, the soya, the peanut, and in Anandi in the step by step has been given us some amazing videos and some information on what can be done there. She runs a beautiful, very, very amazing vegan cafe in Cyprus. And she has taken this whole teaching of Swamiji and brought it right into her vegan cafe and does amazing work. It's very tiring work. She says that's the most tiring part of her life, but it's amazing work and much needed in this world. So just coming back here, this concept of sweet and ghee-based food offered to the Almighty. I think here one of the most important yogic principles comes in. Yogic principle of diet is not that give me my food, but it is understood as my food is offered to the divine because that divine is residing in me. And the beautiful verse in the Bhagavat Gita talks about the Brahma Arpanam, that you are Arpanam. Arpanam means to offer to the Brahman that is residing in you. And the fire within you, the fire in our belly is called Jatar Agni. Jatara, J-A-T-A-R-A. Jatara Agni, We talked about this in our yogic psychic neurology, but again, for the contextual frame, Jatar Agni is your digestive fire, and anatomically, it is your second part of the duodenum, okay? Second part of the duodenum, because that is where your bile and pancreatic juice. So the pancreatic juice and the bile juice, they come into that second part of duodenum and they start to act on the food. And this is a area that is in the yogic and Ayurvedic terminology called Jatara Agni. And this Jatara Agni is said to be suppressed in modern times, which is why a lot of people have a lot of digestive issues. And a whole series of practices where you lie down and then you do the single and double leg lifting. You have your hands out like Christ on the cross, and you take your right leg to the left hand, bring it back, and then the left leg to the right hand. It's a whole stretch. And there's a beautiful video of Jnana Sundari doing this practice, I think in my Yoga and Digestive Disorders DVD. And it's on the net, and I'm sure we can share it at some point. It's a beautiful one on the beach. And she nearly had the waves washing her away that day as she was lying on the beach and doing this beautiful Jatara Parivrata, twisting this region, which then works on the Jatara Agni. This Jatara Agni is your internal fire that needs to be fed. And what is the feeding of it? It is a type of yajna. A yajna is an offering. Yana, so there is sand in the face. Yeah, that was the one. Sand in the face, and all the very tough, because she has to lie down and keep her eyes open and do the practice, and all of us are moving around with the camera. And the cameraman doesn't know he's getting sand in her face. And she has to act so spiritual in it. That's the tough part, right? Being spiritual when you have sand in your face. Yajna is the offering. You are making an offering to the fire, a fire offering. What is the fire? The fire of digestion. And this fire of digestion at the physical level is the Jatara Agni that has its own relationship with a higher Agni, which is working with your capacity to think. So the mental digestion, physical digestion, influencing mental digestion, which is why it is so important what you eat, because it will influence how you think. What you eat influences how you think. And this is why in yoga, so much importance was given to what you eat. Because tamasika food will dull your mental process. Rajasika food will make you very active. And sattvika food gives you an opportunity for the higher level of thoughts. So it wasn't being judgmental. Now there are days you just want to be a couch potato. Fine, tamasika food is great for you that day. You're just going to lie on a couch and be a couch potato watching TV. No, don't watch TV. Seriously, if you are in North America, don't watch TV. It is sickening. It is sickening what is happening there. I'm using that word in the truest meaning of what it means. It is sickening that the world's oldest democracy is going through this nonsense. Seriously. Seriously. No banana republic has that happen, okay? It doesn't even happen in a banana republic. Down in, oh my God, sorry, I didn't want to talk about this, but I am pained. I am pained. See, my mother was American, okay? I have huge amount of family in America. 50% of American genes run in me, and I am sickened that this is happening. When I look at those people, I'm like, seriously, what has happened to the human race? Oh my God, seriously. Junk food has created junk humans. Just what are we thinking? What are we thinking? What are we thinking? Well, what we eat influences it. And here this concept that your food is an offering to the digestive fire in an element of a yajna, what is also called a Havan, Havan. Havan. Because in Havan, there is a Havis. The word here is Havis. These words are very beautiful words. When we make an offering into the fire, it is called Havis, Havis. It is an offering being made into the fire. And as we do the Havan, we use a term Swaha. Swaha. And I'm just going to break this up. Swaha. Remember I said what is ha? Destruction. Now let's look at what is destruction. Destruction is matter changing form. When I put something into fire, it is matter changing form. And as I asked Ammaji the other day, she was talking about, I said, what is the universe? She said, I cannot say anything. I said, why? She said, because I'm a little peanut. And I said, okay, if you are a little peanut, we are just peanut butter. Huh? We are the peanut butter. If Ammaji, Big Boss Ammaji, Universal Big Boss Ammaji is peanut, we are peanut butter. And I said, then what happens to the peanut? Does it get roasted? She says it becomes wood. And I thought about that. Because what is wood? Ultimately, it is charcoal. And when you burn something, you are getting rid of the external manifestation so that the essence is now freed. So when you're offering something into the Havan, the Havis, it is burning the external manifestation for the essence to be liberated. I just hope you can get what I'm saying, because what I'm saying is an essence of the concept of yajna and Havan. People say, why are you throwing something into food into fire? There is a very, very strong metaphysical understanding here. You are offering into that fire that which is manifest to liberate it from the bondage of manifestation and become unmanifest. So, Swa is the self. When you utter the mantra Swaha, whatever you are offering, the external manifestation is destroyed, burnt away, so that the self, the Swa, can manifest in its totality. And that is why Om Ganganapadaye Namaha Swaha. The mantra would be uttered. Om Tvayambakam Yajamahe Sugundhim Pushtir Vardhanam Urva Rukamiva Bandhanat Vritya Mokshayamamratatem Om Swaha. Om Swaha. When you do that, what are you doing? You are offering the manifestation, the gross. What is manifest? Gross. What is unmanifest? Energy. E is equal to mc square, Einstein. And what are you doing? You are enabling matter to be freed and become pure energy. And this is why when you eat some food, that food which is at the material level of existence, the manifest mass, the potatoes, the tomatoes, the cucumber, the beans, whatever you're eating, you are putting into you something that has a gross manifestation. You want to offer it into the digestive fire, the Jatar Agni, as a Havan, and in that, enable that gross to become subtle and energize your panchakoshas, your three shariras. You have three bodies, three levels of manifestation. The gross embodiment, I use the term embodiment, three embodiments. One is the gross embodiment. The second is the subtle embodiment. And the third is the causal embodiment. Stula, Sukshma, Karana. Stula, Sukshma, Karana, Sharira. Sharira is translated as a body. I am using the term embodiment. The gross embodiment. The subtle embodiment is Sukshma Sharira. And the causal embodiment is Karana Sharira, also called Linga Sharira. Now, it is said, and I'm just going to quote that, I believe it is from the Shiva Samhita, I think it is. What they tell us is that the foods are having the capacity that when you digest the food, when it goes through this digestive process, it gets converted into something called chyle, CHYLE. This is like the rasa. When we talked about the dhatus, rasa, rakta, mamsa, all that. Now what happens, it is said that this chyle fluid, that is the ultimate part of your digestive process, is converted into three parts. Three parts. So whatever you eat, doesn't matter what you eat, it is converted into three parts, and the best part, the most finest extract, goes to nourish the causal embodiment. The Karana Sharira is sustained and nourished by it. The second part, which is the middle part, nourishes the body composed of the dhatus. So your Sukshma Sharira and all its physiological functioning, and the Stula Sharira and its manifestation is nourished by this. And then the lowest part of it, the most gross part of the food you have eaten, is then thrown out of the body in the form of the excreta and the urine. So the lowest part of the three aspects of the final process of digestion. The final process of digestion, the lowest part is thrown out as excreta. It could be stool, urine, sweat, blah, blah, blah. The middle part is the body and its functioning. And the highest part is for your causal layer of existence. So everything you eat is influencing your gross Yes, I don't know why the internet god wanted me to keep quiet, but anyway, everything you eat, and the cliffhanger is there. Everything that you eat, you become physically, mentally, and spiritually. Now that places a great responsibility on the choice of what we are going to eat. That is where the power of choice comes in, the superpower of being human, right? Becomes so important. Now, let's go back to the Bhagavad Gita and its concept of Brahma Arpanam. Brahma Arpanam and Brahmarpanam. Brahmarpanam, Brahma Arpanam. Arpanam means offering. So the verse tells us Brahmarpanam Brahmavir Brahmagnau Brahmana Hutam Brahmaiva Tena Kartavyam Brahma Karma Samadhinam. And this verse tells us that whatever you are doing is being offered into the fire for your self-transformation towards that highest reality of the Brahman, which is the universal self. That everything is to be offered, done as an offering. And this is often used as a chant before we eat in India. And I remember in school, this was part of our pre-food chanting. Om Brahmarpanam Brahmavir Brahmagnau Brahmana Hudam Brahmaiva Dena Kartavyam Brahma Karma Samadhinam. And we used to do it as fast as possible to get to the food and get it into our mouth. And that's what kids do, right? Huh? Huh? Now, it is a very beautiful concept, the concept of Brahmarpanam. The concept of Brahmarpanam, and just give me 1 second. This is a verse from the chapter 4, verse 24. Okay, I'm just right away giving you a reference onto that. And I'm just typing it out so that those who want to have it there. Brahmarpanam Brahma Havir. I was talking about the Havis that is being offered. Brahma now, the fire, it's also Brahman. Brahma Ahutam. Ahuti is when you are making the offering. Brahmaiva Tena Gantavyam Brahma Karma Samadhinam. That everything you are doing is being made as an offering there. And this is Bhagavat Gita, chapter 4, verse 24. And I'll just add that also to our chat box so that you can have it all there. A very beautiful verse. Now, this is often used in Indian traditions as a chant before food. And when Swamiji started the ashram in 1968, before every meal, he wanted people to have this concept that your food is an offering to the divine. And this is the way you bless your food. Because if you bless the food, the manifestation of the digestion of the food is going to be a blessing. And I think this we need to think about a little bit. It is well understood that the emotional state you are in affects the way the food is digested. The emotional state you are in will affect the way the food is digested. It affects what you eat, how you eat, and how much you eat. And one of the biggest issues in modern times is emotional overeating. Emotional overeating is one of the biggest issues that is prevailing in the world. This, coupled with so many insecurities, has led to conditions like bulimia, anorexia nervosa, to just name two of the very prevalent conditions that are associated with the eating disorders and the emotional imbalances. And in fact, one of the most vital yoga cleansing practices of the digestive tract, called Vaman Dauti or Kunjal Kriya, where you drink water and then you vomit it out, is not taught in most Western circles because they are scared that latent tendencies for bulimia will be brought to the fore by it. And people actually, in India, it is very prevalent. We do these practices are taught easily. Every yoga school has people, in the morning, going out and drinking water and vomiting it out, cleansing the digestive tract. It's amazing. And the moment it goes out into the rest, no, we are not touch that because already people have issues and this is going to trigger something. It's a major issue. Emotional binge eating. Eating alone. In Indian culture, you always ate with family. You always ate together. All traditional cultures had it, not just India. In India, the culture has been kept alive a bit longer than other places. We are still having a traditional culture that is surviving. People are trying to kill it, but it's still surviving. This whole idea was don't eat in the dark. Don't eat alone. Don't eat when you're emotionally imbalanced. Don't eat when your mind is agitated. When your mind is agitated, please do not eat because the food will not settle down in a proper way if the mind is agitated. There was a great understanding of the psychosomatics between the brain and what is today called the gut brain. The gut brain, which only now Western science has come up with, was understood. And that is why when you have the concept of I am offering the food to the divine to sustain the divine in me. I am eating to sustain the divine in me. The divine in me I am nourishing by my food. Let my food be sacred offering. Now, the moment your attitude towards food is that it is a sacred offering to the divine in you, that food is definitely going to be very useful for you. And so Swamiji taught the students a mantra which we always chanted, which is Om Tat Sat Krishna Arpanam Astu. Om Tat Sat Krishna Arpanam Astu. Om Tat Sat, the same concept of Brahmarpanam, not the concept of Krishna, not meaning Krishna who plays the flute and has the, peacock feather in his head, but Krishna as the cosmic consciousness. That the food you are eating, you are offering to the cosmic consciousness so that the food will nourish your higher consciousness on the path of spiritual growth. Now, over the years, many times when the students chanted this, they ended up with Om Tat Sat Krishna Panamastu. And so I used to get people asking me, Dr. Ananda, what does Panamastu mean? And I'm like, it's not the Panama Canal. It's not Panamastu, it is Alpanamastu. But Krishna Panamastu, it became Krishna Panamastu. People started splitting it. And in the ashram, I had to explain to many of the students that they are not invoking Panama, but they are invoking Krishna Alpanam. Krishna Alpanam. Om Tat Sat. May it be the reality that this food is an offering to the higher consciousness. So that the food is nourishing the higher part of you, not just the physical body. And this is why when in modern diet, we talk about carbohydrates, proteins, we talk about, fats, we talk about vitamins, we talk about minerals, and then we talk about water. 6 elements that are very important in diet. Carbohydrates, which are your immediate source of energy. Carbohydrates, the immediate source of energy, glucose. Fats, which are the slow source of energy and the insulators, and proteins, which are the building blocks of your cells. And then you have 3 things that give you the body, but then you need some energy. Vitamins and minerals, which energize you. The vitamins and minerals energize you. And then what holds it all together? Water. That is why hydration is essential for health. Hydration is one of the under noticed aspects of health. If you are hydrated, you'll be healthy. If you are dehydrated, you are mummifying yourself even as you are alive. You are becoming an Egyptian mummy by dehydrating yourself. And every bit of processed food you eat, every bit of processed food, and that is virtually everything you find on supermarkets these days, every bit of processed food dehydrates you further, because all of it is dehydration. Everything that is processed is dehydrated. And anything that has a shelf life more than a week, please be careful of it. Because if it is made to last for 2 years, do you think you are going to digest that thing at all? See, there's a beautiful concept. And Jane is here, who has her horses and loves her horses, and they give her a lot of love and bonding and beautiful experiences. It is said that you should drink water that a horse will drink, because a horse will know what is the safe water. Animals have that automatic, beautiful concept of knowing what is good. But what happens with us is we think if it's in a bottle, it is good. And if it says it is from a spring someplace, we think it is good. Now, what has happened is we have got brainwashed. And Kalavati, rice in India doesn't last for ages. So I don't know what you're talking about. Rice in India rots very easily. That is why we have to keep it very carefully. Rice we have to keep very carefully. Rice would be eaten after it has been cooked in water, because the rice only becomes active when you hydrate it. It's, again, we're going to come to that in a few moments when I come to biogenic, the importance of hydrating food. But it's interesting. And Sunny has pointed out our instant noodles in India, Maggie made in 2 minutes, digested in 2 years, pure plasticized noodles in India. We had a big controversy when they found that these noodles, which were the favorite of everyone in India, had a huge amount of lead, L-E-A-D in it, lead in it. I'm not talking of monosodium glutamate, MSG. I'm talking of lead. MSG is there in everything these days. Seriously, Swamiji said you have to read the contents of your food, and most of the time, if you read it, you will not eat it. It's actually weird. One has to be very careful, processed food. So anyway, coming back here, the concept of Krishna Panamastu, Brahma Panamastu, is the concept that your food is being offered. It becomes a prasad. It becomes a sacred food. And Jane has asked about white rice as composed to red and brown. Swamiji always advocated the red and brown rice more than the white rice. He said white rice, white sugar, and what was it? Maida, white wheat, the extract of wheat. Of course, white bread you add to it. Basically, it was actually interesting. He said these are the white killers. He called them the white killers, which is very interesting because, language has a lot of racism in it. So always, it has to be black to be bad, and white is always considered good. But here you have the white killers in your diet. So I think it's a good thing to keep in mind when talking about language and racism. Someone pointed out a few things yesterday to me on the net, and it was very interesting to look at this perspective that we have often overlooked. White sugar, killer. White salt. Swamiji used to talk about that. White sugar, white salt, white rice, maida, which is white. It's quite interesting. So red and brown rice is much better. Basically, anything, what Swamiji actually came to, because people used to ask him so many questions. Should I take this or, that it was interesting actually. And Swamiji came to a very simple thumb rule. His thumb rule was I think it was actually a very, very beautiful way of thinking. Eat local, eat seasonal. And if you think about that, that solves most of the problem, because if it is local, most probably it's not going to be going through this heavy processing and preservation. And if it is seasonal, it doesn't need to be preserved because it's in season. See, mangoes in mango season don't need preservatives, but mangoes in non-mango season need preservatives. Apples in apple season will be fresh. Apples out of season will be preserved. You know, basically, if you look at it, and all the preservatives are again salt-based. And the moment you have excess salt in your system, you start to have fluid retention. This is not good. Puts a load on your cardiovascular system, and you go into heart failure. And along the way, your kidneys are knocked out. So excessive salt knocks out your heart and your kidneys, and I don't have to tell you what else it can knock out. It can knock out everything. Because excessive sodium is not good, and salt has sodium. And if you look at most preservatives, the basic preservative is salt. And you know what you have put into it and what you are eating. I think it is a very good message. Just give me one moment. I'm just checking the connection again. Yeah, are we back online? I just want to check. Yeah, there was a bit of an internet issue there. Okay. I was talking about eat local, eat seasonal. And Ingan has asked me a very apt question. We do not have local fruits and vegetables in the winter season. Very true. Very true. And that is where yoga talks about appropriate situations. And this is something that often comes up. I've often, had discussions with people about the choice of diet. Now, ideally, yoga suggests a vegetarian diet leaning towards a vegan diet. At the same time, in many cultures, in many climates, that may not be a practical life-sustaining diet. And that is where the question comes. What is appropriate to that individual in that place at that point of time? And one has to take that into consideration. In the days earlier, nowadays, we term Inuit is the term used, not Eskimo anymore. Inuit is the new term. And we used to talk about, you cannot tell an Inuit, you have to be vegetarian because they're going to kill themselves, okay? So you have to understand what is the climate. You have to understand what is the life need. And that is why I said your guna, your dosha, and your karma. Because karma involves the fact that I have a student who is a fisherman. And this guy goes out every day for a couple of hours, catches fish and comes home, sells the fish. And he asked me a question. He said, "Sir, do you think it is wrong for me to eat fish?" And I said, "Well, no." I said, "No, because for you, it is a very practical life situation. You go out, catch fish. Now you go sell the fish, get money, and then buy something. Doesn't make sense to me. You are going out. You, through your effort, are catching the fish. You eating fish in your situation, to me, doesn't seem anti-yoga." Now you'll say, "Oh, this is situational ethics." Call it that if you want. But this is how I perceive life. One has to understand it. People often talk to me about it. They say, "I am vegetarian, I'm vegan." But then sometimes in family situations, family events, In family events, there may be some non-vegetarian food served. So do you make a mess of yourself in that family event where you have your 10 family members sitting around the table for Christmas and you say, I am going to not eat anything because I'm vegan? I think one has to be very careful here. One has to be very, very careful. Either you choose not to be in that situation. But if you choose to be in that situation, please understand there is something called a dharma to your family and a dharma to understanding their point of view at that point of time. I am not talking about situational ethics. Taken out of context, I could be quoted out of context and people will say Dr. Ananda is advocating situational ethics. What I'm advocating is dharma. And dharma is not a box. The other day I asked Ammaji, we were talking about good and bad. And I said, Ammaji, am I good or bad? And Ammaji said, I will not put you in a box. She said, I will not put you in a box. What a beautiful answer, because this good or bad, right or wrong becomes a box at times. Dharma is not a box. Dharma is universal. And one has to look at multiple perspectives. One has to be very, very careful here. And yes, Ingan has asked me another question. What about a glass of wine? Again, cultural issues have to be brought into play. Now, if someone belongs to a culture where there is a certain amount of wine being used as part of the diet for a certain reason as part of that culture, one has to understand the context of it. Now, it doesn't mean a person can go out and get drunk, okay? But what I'm saying is one has to understand, again, moderation, mitahara, yuktahara. That is why I was saying it is balanced diet. It is appropriate diet. Let me even call it the appropriate balanced approach to food. It is an appropriate approach to food and eating, which one has to adopt because it is very easy. Now, one has to be careful. One doesn't start to use it as an excuse also. This is where one has to be careful. Do you then use this as an excuse to justify anything you want to do? And there one has to have lots of self-reflective introspection. Self-reflective introspection and not justification using this concept. So what I wanted to bring out today is the concept that this is not hard and fast. You know, when we talk of Hatha Yoga, I just wanted to give you a context. Because when we go through these scriptures, you find statements like this. He who begins the practice of yoga without controlling the diet suffers many diseases and does not make progress. So mitahara is important for yoga sadhana, is brought out. But then what also comes in is that you find a concept. I just wanted to see if I can find that here. I don't think it is here right away. But there is a concept of patya and apatya. Patya and apatya, two words are there, and I'm going to type this out because these are important concepts. P-A-T-Y-A, patya, and A-P, oh, sorry, 1 second. I have to do it to everyone. Okay. Patya, apatya. Okay. Patya is a conducive diet. Patya means conducive diet. Apatya means a non-conducive diet. And this is often brought up in yoga, especially when you talk about therapeutic applications. And what they say is that patya is considered conducive diet. And they say good grains, I'm talking about what the Hatha Yoga scriptures are saying. Good grains, wheat, rice, barley, milk, ghee, brown sugar. Now comes the funny part, sugar candy. This is crystallized sugar. And these guys must have had a sweet tooth. Huh? Now, if you go to many temples in India, they offer this crystallized sugar as a prasadam. In many Indian temples, it is offered as a prasadam. Katkandu, we call it. Katkandu, and it is offered as a prasadam in many temples. But it's very interesting. Honey, dry ginger, a fruit that is a species of cucumber, a few vegetables, some pulses, and pure water. And they say you should take food that is nourishing, sweet food mixed with ghee and milk, nourishing the dhatus, the substances of the body, and it should be pleasing and suitable. The concept of it should suit your constitution. Then it is patya. Apatya are those which are bitter, sour, pungent, salty, causing heating in the body. Now they say green vegetables. And this I'm reading this out so that you get a context here. Now, green vegetables in those days, if you are not careful, you could suffer from diarrhea and it could kill you. Okay, if you had an infected green vegetable salad, you could get diarrhea, cholera, and all that type of stuff, and amoebiasis, and die of it. So maybe that concept was there that food should be eaten after being cooked and not raw food. So there was a cultural context in those days. We should not take it out and say, oh, yogis should not eat green vegetable salad. In fact, at a conference held at an Ayurveda university, after I gave a talk, I got attacked by some Ayurveda doctors. Oh, you talked about eating salad. Salad is not good. It is against yoga. And I'm like, which millennia do you guys live in? No, our scriptures say, I say, see, you have to understand the scriptures in the context. You have to understand the context. Books are for the guidance of the wise and obedience of fools. And don't be a fool. Understand what that book is saying, adopt it, understand the message in the present day context and apply it. So important, because you have a lot of these fanatical people. Oh my God, they are worse than that guy with those Viking horns and Russian cap. Oh my God, seriously, they are worse than that. What an image. America is never going to live down that image, I tell you. That image is now in my head, seriously. And that's what many people in yoga are like. So fanatical about it. So fanatical about it. And they take it totally out of context. Then they say alcohol. So alcohol is prohibited according to this list. And I just told you another perspective on that. Fish, flesh foods. Now here they talk about curd and buttermilk being apatya. Oil, cakes, and garlic. Again, garlic and onion are a big issue in yoga circles. They are a very big issue in yoga circles, and there's a cultural context to it. And Swamiji used to say the cultural context was that when people started coming to convert people in India, and this was the time the Islamic invaders and all came in, there was a lot of forceful conversions. And people who they couldn't convert, they used to trick them by giving them different meat items shaped in the food that looked like garlic and onion. This is what used to be done. And so what happened is, after the people had that food, they said, oh, you have eaten prohibited food, so you might as well convert. See, there was a very weird way of, a lot of this happened in India. A lot of it happened. And people actually, oh my God, they said, I've lost my caste, I've lost my religion, I've lost my dharma. And it became a big issue. And so the people who were in charge said, oh my God, we have to protect people. So they said, please refrain from garlic and onion. And this became a message for a very practical reason at that point of time. Now, there is the concept of garlic and onion being tamasic. But I personally feel this is a bit judgmental on two aspects of vegetables that have immense medicinal property. Antioxidant property of garlic and onion is way beyond any negativity that can be here. And that is why we have to be very careful. We have to be very careful with it. Now, an overdose of it can, give you bad breath and have you letting out air from the other end that smells and make it difficult to live around. So there's also a practical reason that these things may have been avoided at a certain point of time. I'll just put that out. Now, as Ingan is saying, uncooked food is more difficult to digest. Absolutely, yes. Cooked food will be more easy to digest, but then your digestive system should also work once in a while. It should be made to work. And people try to make everything too easy. If you make it too easy for your digestive system, it is going to weaken it. So it is important that there is a judicious balance. The word here is judicious balance is very important. Now, another point that comes up here is the concept of life in the food. Now, when we talk about life in the food, life is bio. Bio, the term bio refers to life. Biology, study of life. Bio aspect, Swamiji has given three beautiful concepts. One is bioacidic, biostatic, and biogenic. I've typed these three terms here. Bioacidic, biostatic, biogenic. And this concept that Swamiji has given will enable you to have a better perspective of what is appropriate in diet. Bioacidic is any food that is breaking down. So any food that is decomposing turns into an acidic state. Cellular breakdown is acidic. So if you keep that in mind, cellular breakdown is acidic. And Swamiji used to say that virtually every disease we humans have is based on an acidic internal environment. We are supposed to be alkaline. Human beings, our body fluids are to be alkaline. When we start to move towards an acidic state, disease can settle in. And one of the most acidic conditions is cancer. Cancer is a very acidic condition, and the modern approach of chemotherapy makes it even more acidic because chemotherapy is highly acidic. This is actually one of the big issues why chemotherapy has all the side effects which are there. Okay, I just realized what happened is that I typed it here, but I typed it in a private message. I wasn't watching. Now you should have bioacidic, biostatic, biogenic. Thank you, Jnana Sundari, for that. See, it's good I have people watching my back. So it's good. That's what a team is all about. Together, everyone achieves more. TEAM. Together, everyone achieves more. Okay, so coming back to it. When food is breaking down, it becomes acidic. And this is why old food, which would be classified as tamasic, is highly acidic. And what do? We put food in the refrigerator, we take it after a week, heat it and eat it. That is pure tamasic food, pure acid that is going to poison your cells. And we do it out of convenience, which is one of the reasons why many people in traditional aspects of India would not eat in a restaurant, because you don't know how fresh the food is. Of course, you have no idea what the chef was thinking when they were cooking the food, whether they were cursing you and hoping you would die at the earliest or whatever it was, because they had to work an overshift or something. That is why most people, traditional cultures in India, would only eat food cooked at home. It was a very strong cultural aspect here. So coming back, food that is in any state of decay or is being prevented from decay by preservation is going to be acidic. That is why eat seasonal, eat local was part of that. The second is biostatic, where the life force is currently on hold. Most refrigerated food actually comes under this, because the refrigeration, deep freeze and all, what it does is it stops the life process. That's how it works. It stops the whole biological process in the food. Now the thing is, then, if you're not careful, then when you heat it and all, biostatic becomes bioacidic. That's the next part. Biostatic is, again, most of the food we eat. Now, I'll give you an example by going to the next one, biogenic. Biogenic means the life force is alive and kicking. And the best example of biogenic food, the most best example is sprouts. Sprouted pulses, sprouted grains. Okay. So sprouted pulses and grains, they are the biogenic food, because imagine this sprout. You have sprouted the food, that pulse, that grain. It is growing. The prana shakti is there in it. And even as you are chewing it, there is that pranic energy still there until it gets into your second part of duodenum. And of course, once it gets into the stomach, the acid is going to neutralize it. But right up to that point of your hydrochloric acid getting to that food, there is that pranic force alive in it. There is an amazing energy sustaining life. Biogenic is life sustaining, which is why sprouts are the most underrated food. It doesn't matter what you sprout, the pranic point of view, that is there. The second thing, what people do with sprouts is they take the sprout and then they cook it. Now you have made it biostatic. So biogenic has become biostatic because you have cooked the sprouts. Same thing, you have an apple tree in your backyard. You pluck an apple and eat it. What is happening? You eat that apple, that biogenic apple is there. The energy of the apple is still alive because you just plucked it off the tree and you're eating it. I remember when we visited Lata and Simo in Berlin and went out to the garden out of Berlin in one of the villages. And we plucked the strawberry, we got the strawberries and we got the potatoes and we got, all the stuff off the garden. We just washed it and ate it. Now, of course, the best one is don't even wash it, just eat it. Clean it and eat it. You get all your vitamin B12 and other things. The more you clean it, the less the vitamin B12 is there. So clean it judiciously. Beautiful, because it's biogenic. Now you have plucked an apple off your tree. You have kept it a few days. It has become biostatic. See, this is where the change. It is not that the apple will always be biogenic. The sprouts will always be biogenic. Yeah, but if you cook the sprouts, it's going to become biostatic. If you cook it and store it in your refrigerator and eat it 10 days later after reheating, it is now bioacidic. So the same food can be biogenic, biostatic, and bioacidic, which is very important to understand also, because people tend to say tamasika food is this, all non-vegetarian food is tamasika, all spices is rajasika, and all vegetarian food is satvika. No. You take beautiful salad, amazing salad, freshly. You take the greens out of your garden and you cut up those beautiful carrots and tomatoes from your garden and make a beautiful salad, and then you put it in the refrigerator and eat it 1 month later. That is the most tamasic thing you can ever eat. It was sattvic, yes. But what has happened is the conditions have made it tamasic. So vegetarian food being sattvic and non-vegetarian being tamasic is not actually the way to go forward. I think we have to re-look at this. And as I said, culture specific, season specific. We have to be a bit more alert about it. And that is why I think one has to really think about it. Mark has asked a beautiful question. Probiotic foods, are they biogenic? I would say yes, that is a good one. I haven't thought about that before. Because probiotic foods are supporting life. They themselves may not be they may not be biogenic, but they're inducing a biogenic situation in your gut. That is where fermented foods may actually be doing that. That is why curd and buttermilk, which is part of Indian diet, is a very good probiotic, prebiotic. It's amazing actually what it can do. Now, it may not be biogenic on its own, but is inducing a biogenic situation in the flora of your intestine. So I think that's a very good one. And as Don says, because of COVID, many have started to garden again. I think COVID has again brought this eat local, eat season into vogue because we haven't had the options of the others. So I think many people have been made to, I know when we were going through the intense lockdown, we just had to go to the next village and get whatever vegetables were available and eat. You couldn't go to the supermarket. There was no supermarket. So there was no processed food. Automatically it shifted focus for a lot of people. Dawn has asked another good question. She has her scientific thinking cap on today. So our body systems have incredible capacity to buffer the internal pH. What do you mean by acidic internal environment outside of the stomach? Well, you see, our pH is around 7.4. And that is where we are hovering in the blood. But the blood, when we take food that is of a acidic nature, what happens is for a period of time, you are going to have the blood move towards the acidic level, and then the alkalinizing homeostatic mechanisms have to come into play to buffer it. Now, if it happens once a week, it is okay. But if every meal you are eating food that is acidic, you are going to wear down your buffering system, and your buffering system will start to say, oh, 7.2 is also okay. And then it will say 7.1 is also okay. And then it will say 6.9 is okay. And you start to go into acidosis because your system, when we talked about the baroreflex mechanism and cardiovascular system recently, your body starts to think that 150 by 100 is normal. It has got confused. So similarly, your body will start to get confused about what is your internal acid base or acid alkali balance. And that is the danger that happens here. So when we say acid, we don't mean suddenly, suddenly your blood becomes, 3.2 or something. That's not going to happen. The body has amazing homeostatic mechanisms. I marvel at the homeostatic mechanisms. And what will happen is suddenly you will find this huge amount of alkali going out in the urine. There's, the post-alkaline let out in the urine is quite amazing there. Mayank ji, your question of renin, I think you are talking about the enzyme in the digestive process related to the digestion of milk and other things, because there's also a renin which is in your kidneys related to the blood pressure. So renin, angiotensin, aldosterone mechanism, which is very important. But the renin, there is a renin aspect related to digestion, but that is not really too pertinent to the immediate discussion. So if it is renin related to kidneys, it's blood pressure. And again, Indian statement, I think this is so true. All cultural contexts are partly globalized, influenced by American fast food habits these days. And healthy food habit is a class question in most cultures. It is pathetic that healthy food is costlier and junk food is cheaper. It should be the opposite. Junk food should be costlier and healthy food should be cheaper. This is actually what it should be. But business doesn't care about individuals' health. food business doesn't care about your health. Even the healthcare business doesn't care about your health. I'm sorry to tell you, there's no reason why essential drugs should cost what they cost. It's the cost of medicines that keep people alive should be the cheapest medicine. And instead, these are the medicines that are costliest. See, you want to buy a packet of potato chips. When kids come to our city center, the parents send them some snacks to have in the break between the yoga and the dance class. And what do? 10 rupees can buy you a packet of potato chips. Of course, it's not a packet, it's 90% of air and 10% of chips. Now you buy a packet of air and you get free chips with it. That's actually all this Lay's and all those companies. I don't know why they have this huge packet. They are really cheating you with, what you think you're getting. And then there are, 6 chips in it with, a whole packet of air, a lot of gas, hot air. Yeah, that's what it is. But the parents, 10 rupees and they have a packet of potato chips. Now, if I say, send something healthy like fruit for your child, an apple costs 50 rupees. One apple is 50 rupees. One packet of potato chips is 10 rupees. What does the parent choose? Potato chips for the economic reason. See, I think this is an issue, and I really don't know what we can do. All I know we can do is that we make the choices wherever we are. And this is why I make a clear-cut decision to support local produce. It is a very, very strong decision I make that I will support a local farmer. I will support the shop down the corner, not the big supermarket, because I refuse to support big business who is based on greed and not on sustaining human life. And I think we need to make a few of those decisions. Sometimes it is hard. Sometimes it may not be convenient. And then in yoga comes another very beautiful concept that has become a very strong one these days. Very, very strong one these days. And that is the concept of fasting. The concept of fasting. This has become such a big fad these days. Where you fast for 18 hours or you fast for 16 hours. And it's quite an amazing thing that has come in. And I know a lot of people who are doing it, and good for them. Indian culture had it in a very different way. Because they said, okay, how can we get people to do it? They said, well, associate religion with it. This was the Indian way of doing anything. Associate religion with it. And so they said, okay, on Saturdays, it is special. So for this God, and so you fast. So that God will be very happy with you. The full moon is very special. So you fast on a full moon. The no moon is special. Fast on that day. The 4th day after the full moon is very special. Fast on that day. And what they did is they built into the culture. My mother-in-law, I think she fasts at least 15 days in a month. And it's intermittent fasting is the modern term they call it. This was part of the culture. Intermittent fasting was part of the culture, that you gave a rest to your digestive system every now and then. It was not this modern concept, you have to eat 3 times a day. It's 8 o'clock, you have to eat. No, you don't have to. The Tamil scripture, Tirukkural, which is amazing, and I really recommend you to look it up because it has amazing teachings for life. Tirukkural, I'll just type it out here. Tirukkural by Thiruvalluvar. This guy was an amazing guy, and he has given 1,330 verses in 133 chapters. A chapter is 10 verses. And it is astonishing what he has talked about life. He talks about life very, very beautifully. And in the section 900, that is, it would be the 90th chapter. So the verses are 909 41, 42, like that till 9:49. In those 10 verses, he talks about medicine. He talks about medicine. That chapter is medicine. And in this, out of 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 out of 10 verses in the chapter on medicine are related to food. 6 out of 10 are related to food. And he makes a beautiful statement in the verse 942. He says, the body needs no medicine if what is eaten is digested before the next meal. So basically, if you eat and you wait for your food to digest and then you have the next meal, you will need no medicine. That is a very beautiful statement, he says. Wait for your body to digest the previous meal. Nowadays, what do? It's 8 o'clock, I better have breakfast. It's 12:30, I better have lunch. It's 7 o'clock, I better have dinner. We have got locked into a time frame, irrespective of whether the previous meal is digested or not. And this is a very strong one. He then in 943 says, once the food is digested, eat with moderation. Again, mitahara, yuktahara is brought in. This prolongs the life of the embodied. He then comes to the concept that patya, which is conducive, and apatya, unconducive. He says, assured of digestion and real hunger. When you know that you have digested the previous meal, when you are truly hungry, eat with care, which means mindfulness. What is agreeable? The patya food, that which is appropriate for you, choose and eat that. And he says, no harm will come to life if what you eat does not include the disagreeable food. Food that you do not agree with, that is disagreeable to you, please don't eat it. That's all. Very simple. But what do we want? I know this is not good for me. I know it makes me sick, but can I have a tablet so that I'll take the tablet and eat what makes me sick but not get sick? You know, we are always trying to find this weird way around. And he says again, pleasure dwells with the moderate eater, the one who eats in moderation. Pleasure dwells. Disease dwells with the voracious glutton. That is actually the English translation given for that. Unlimited eating beyond one's measure leads to unlimited number of ills. These are 6 of the verses where he talks about food in the chapter on medicine. And if you look at all cultures, every culture has understood that food and medicine are related. And that's why even Hippocrates, the father of modern medicine, he says, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. Let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. You know, we say in India, you have to be very careful, because if food is not your medicine will become your food, meaning all you will be eating is tablets. And I know a lot of people that, you know, they have one full handful of medicine and then there has no space for any food to go in. That is why the importance of food as medicine. Unave marandu, we say in Tamil. And thanks Gitan for that the Buddhist monks, forest dwelling, they eat once or twice a day, no food after noon. This is very much part of many traditions. Now the thing is, you should not go on to the risk of going to the other end, which again happens with people, and then it goes off. And Kalavati talks about that, about with babies. When a baby cannot keep formula milk down, they give the mother medicine to take before the milk so they don't throw it up. Why is the baby throwing it up? Because it's disagreeable to the baby. But no, give them an anti-emetic so that they won't vomit. You have suppressed the vomiting reflex. And then later on, 10, 12 years later, you have somebody with anorexia nervosa and bulimia. Why? Because of what you have done when they were an infant. This whole idea of infant food is so wrong. So wrong. I tell you seriously. 6 months, all the baby needs is mother's milk, and that can continue even up to 2 years. But after 6 months, you have to have supplemental nutrition as appropriate for the digestive capacity of the baby. In Indian culture, it was around the first birthday that the solid food used to be given. Anna Prasanna is part of the ceremony that was there, and the mother's milk was sustained. Now, there are mothers who don't have breast milk. Now, that is an exception to the rule. But now, what has happened? The exception is breastfeeding mothers. Breastfeeding mothers have become the exception. That the rule is breastfeeding. But what has happened is we have totally moved away from that. And I tell you, it is so much against humanity. So much against humanity. My own pediatrics professors, and I've had gems of professors in my medical training. I really am so fortunate. I have had true human beings as my professors in medicine. And two of my professors of pediatrics, guys who came in with, any of these infant feeding things, they would just, shout them and kick them out of the door. They would not even let them get in the door. And, most people are not like that. They're like, okay, if I do that, will I go on a vacation? That's most of the people, that is how they work. And these were people who, they said, my mother and her baby are the most important for me, not your business. And that is the type of professors I had, which is why I am very strong on this. Unless there is a condition where the mother is not able to, but most of the issues I have seen here in India is the young mother is so stressed out. The stress is blocking the mother's milk. And what she needs is reassurance at that time. What the mother needs is reassurance and emotional support. And then the milk starts to come. But what people do is the mother is stressed out. She doesn't know, and the baby, again, people make a mistake. The suckling reflex of the baby is activated by this corner of the mouth. And what you need to do is you have to take the corner of the newborn's mouth and put it at the nipple. Not put the mouth on the nipple. If you put the mouth on the nipple, the baby will not drink. You have to put the corner of the mouth. And wherever I go, I share this because you never know who's going to be dealing with babies. You put the corner of the mouth on the nipple and the baby will automatically, it will start doing it. But you put it here, and the baby goes, and the mother's like, oh, the baby doesn't like me. The baby doesn't like my milk. Oh, something is wrong. And immediately, psychoneuroendocrinology comes in. What you think, what you feel starts to influence your nervous system, and immediately your pituitary gland starts to go into stress, and suddenly your prolactin and everything starts to go out, and the oxytocin and all goes out, and suddenly you have created a stress. And then what happens? Now you go into a vicious cycle. The mother is stressed, stress goes to the baby, there's no milk coming, the baby is hungry, the baby cries, stress in the mother becomes more again, and then suddenly somebody says, here is infant formula. And the mother's like, okay, at least the baby will survive. My baby will not die because it's not getting my milk. And then you have this vicious cycle. And then what happens is the That was not the god of internet. That was a god of pharmaceutical milk, infant milk mafia that shut me down there. Huh? Pharma mafia. Seriously, it's a big mafia, no doubt about it. It's worse than Donald Trump's administration. Huh? It's pure mafia. Huh? You know, what we need to do is wherever I go, wherever I talk about this to young people, to expectant mothers. I talk about it to people who are going to take care of mothers, because just that understanding the suckling reflex can change the whole process at the beginning. One thing, just imagine this small baby. I'm sorry if I'm a bit gross here, but imagine that small baby. And suddenly you just shove this huge breast in its face. It's going to say, not me. I'm sorry, but look at it from a baby's perspective. Now, what do? You put the side of the mouth. Please understand, we forget the young newborn has its own intelligence, has a perspective. And what happens is that, you have to let that reflex come naturally and then support the mother. Hydration of the mother, relaxation, let her listen to Om chanting, let her listen to music. So important. So many mothers have listened to my Yoga Sutra chanting. I never made it as a, chanting for antenatal care, but that's what it became. Sangeeta, Devasena, Meena, and all were part of it. And, so many have said, just listening to that, we felt so relaxed, that now when we have a baby and we want to feed, we play it and the baby is relaxed, the mother's reflex, and beautiful milk let down is happening. Everybody is happy, the baby is growing. And one more thing, when we talk about nutrition, for the baby, the whole brain is developing in the first 2 years of life. The first 2 years of life is where virtually the whole brain neuronal development occurs. And that is why we have to be very, very careful. Very, very careful. Because if the baby gets mother's milk during that period of time, the whole brain development is going to be amazing. Depriving a baby of mother's milk in the first 2 years of life is a crime against that baby. I'll tell you that much. Because you have given this artificial formula. What is formula? Processed, bioacidic. I don't even want to go down that track. How wrong it is. And because of marketing, we really get into it. And yes, Vera, very true. Harsh winters in remote locations, definitely it is an issue. And all I can say is that each one of us has to find our own answers. Dr. Ananda doesn't claim to have all the answers, for sure. I would never claim I have all the answers because I'm wise enough to know what I don't know. The other day I made that comment and some people didn't even get that comment. I am wise enough to know what I don't know. And that's a huge amount of stuff. And each person has to find the way. That is where the principles, is it going to be life sustaining? Is it something that is appropriate for you as an individual? Is it something that is possible in your cultural context? Is it something that will sustain a higher aspect of your consciousness? This is what you have to use as a rule of thumb. And if it does that, well, then the diet is fine from a yogic perspective. Don't get caught in any fanaticism. Fanaticism of any kind is not yogic. Fanaticism of any kind is not yogic. Yoga is the middle path. So with that, we stop today. The internet gods have been a bit harsh on me today, but I will bear the brunt of it. We have been having horrible rainstorms and rain. Oh my God, really the gods are pouring the rains down. So part of the internet issue may be that. But thank you for being with me and putting up with all those interruptions. And just having you all with me is a true satsanga. It elevates my consciousness, elevates the thoughts that come through me. And so thank you for enabling that to happen. And I hope that it also sustains the higher consciousness in you and enables you to move forward, because that is what Satsanga is. Community supporting the growth of each other with love, compassion, care. I think that is so, so important. So, so important. So wishing you all the best. We'll close for today. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu Sarve Janaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shantihi 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 Om. So thank you so much and have a nice time wherever you are. Eat well, eat healthy, be happy, healthy, wise. And if wealthy also comes in, take it as a bonus. Okay? Have a wonderful time.